All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So really quick, before we start our full lesson today, we're going to give you a little bit of a review of something that hopefully you remember from last year. I'm going to go through one and two step equations really quick, and then in class we'll actually go through a few more of those bigger problems before we get going. So there's our bell for the morning. So hopefully you can see my screen. It should be presented big in the video. If you remember, when we're doing problems like this, our plan is to remember that this whole equation is balanced and everything on the left side of the equation is the same as the stuff on the right side of the equation. So we have to keep that balance the whole time. Really make sure that you're showing your work, especially as we start out here. I know something like this is probably a fairly straightforward problem for you, but if we start getting the habits of writing these things down, that's pretty important because they will get bigger and they will get harder. And if you're not showing your work, you're going to get lost in the middle steps once we do these 5-step problems later, right? We're going to get away from these 1 and 2 steps. We're going to get into some bigger problems. So remember, on a problem like this, we're always looking to do the opposite. So if we're solving for x here, if our goal is to get this guy right here by itself, then we need to get rid of this -7. To get rid of that -7, we're going to do the opposite of what that says, and we are going to add 7 to both sides. Plus 7. So if you add 7 to both sides, what happens? Well, this -7 and this +7 cancel out, and I'm just left with x on this side. And 4 plus 7 means that this is equal to 11. So that's a one-step equation, x equals 11. Similarly, if we have the same thing and we do something like, let's say, 3x equals 15. Well, we need to make sure we're trying to do the same thing here. We're trying to get x by itself. So what is stopping that x from being by itself? That's the 3, right? So to get rid of the 3 currently, remember this says 3 times x. We don't write a multiplication symbol there, but anytime we have a number next to a variable, it's multiplication. So to undo multiplication, we need to divide. So we need to divide by 3 on this side, which means if we're trying to keep these equal, if we're trying to keep these sides the same, anything we do to one side has to be done to the other. So we're going to divide by 3 over here as well. 3 divided by 3 cancels, and I'm left with x. 3 divided by 3 is just 1, right? We could write a 1 here, but 1x doesn't really do much for us. We should get away from writing 1x. You're welcome to. It's not wrong, but it kind of clouds up some of our work, and we don't necessarily need to write it. So when we have that 1 there, we're just going to say x, right? And 15 divided by 3 is 5. Done. So those are kind of our 2 steps, and we're going to put those 2 steps together to get 2-step equations, which is still, once again, something I hope you're familiar with, but we'll try it one more time. So if you had something like this, now let's say this is 2x, let's say plus 4 is equal to 16. Why not? Okay. So when we're doing 2-step equations, we're trying to get the x by itself, right? So we'll draw a little dotted line here. You don't have to draw this, but I like drawing it, at least for the beginning, so that you can remember we're trying to balance these things out. To do this, we always have 2 steps. We'll work to getting to our 2 steps, and that'll kind of be a common practice for us. So first, you need to get the x term by itself. So this step, we're trying to get this by itself, which means we need to get rid of this 4. We don't like that 4 there. So you'll always add or subtract first when you're doing these 2-step equations. In this case, since it says plus 4, we need to subtract 4 on both sides, minus 4 on both sides, and we get that 2x is equal to, that is 12. Okay, remember, the plus 4 and the minus 4 cancel out. That's why we did it. That's why we're doing that step, is to get rid of those. And then on the other side, 16 minus 4 is 12. So then finally, we get to that division step. We don't want this 2 here. How do we get rid of that 2? Well, we're going to divide. Since this says 2 times x, that's multiplication. If we divide by 2 on both sides, x should be equal to, or 1x, right? But we're not going to write that anymore. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Done. So